They laughed at me, right in my face. That night, I went home hungry, not just for food, but for respect. I thought I'd never forget the humiliation they gave me. Until the next morning, when their bill changed my life forever. Studio microphone. Hey everyone, welcome back to EquiNarrative, where every story reminds us that life has a way of turning pain into purpose. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of how a single act of cruelty turned into the biggest blessing of my life. It was a quiet evening, one of those nights where the rain whispered softly against the windows and the restaurant lights shimmered like tiny stars in the dark. I'd been working double shifts all week. My shoes were worn out, my apron was stained from hours of serving plates, and my smile had become something I wore out of habit, not happiness. I wasn't bitter though. My mother used to say, "Respect every plate you serve, son. Kindness brings its own reward." I believed her until that night. Around 8 p.m., the door swung open, and a couple walked in, dressed sharp, loud voices echoing through the hall before they even sat down. They didn't greet me, didn't smile. The man tossed his coat onto the chair and snapped his fingers. "Table for two. And make it fast," he said. The woman looked at me like I was invisible, or worse, beneath her. Her perfume filled the air, strong and expensive, but her words were sharper. "Let's hope the food here is better than the service," she murmured loud enough for me to hear. I forced a polite smile. "Right this way, sir, ma'am." I seated them by the window, the best table in the restaurant, though every bone in me wanted to put them in the corner. As I handed them the menus, the man said, "We'll need your attention tonight. Don't disappear." "I'll be right here," I said softly. And I was. For the next hour, I ran between tables, balancing plates, refilling glasses, and pretending not to notice when they snapped their fingers or rolled their eyes. The man sent his steak back twice, too cold, then too rare. The woman complained her wine was cheap, even though it was the most expensive one on the list. Still, I smiled. "Still," I said, "I understand. Because that's what we do, people like me." By the end of the night, my hands were trembling from exhaustion. When they finished, I handed them the bill and stepped aside. The man looked at it, then smirked. Service like this deserves a special kind of tip. The next morning, the sunlight felt different. Not warm, not bright, just empty. I dragged myself out of bed, made a cup of bitter coffee, and stared at the floor for a long time. I didn't want to go back to work, but rent was due. So I did what I always did. I got up, put on my uniform, and whispered to myself, "Smile, Daniel. Just smile." When I arrived at the restaurant, the place was already buzzing with noise, plates clinking, laughter echoing, the smell of fresh bread floating in the air. I tied my apron, grabbed my notepad, and started another shift, pretending the world was kind. Around noon, as I was serving a family near the window, I saw them again. That same couple, the man in the black suit, the woman with the cold eyes. My heart sank instantly. They walked in like they owned the place. This time, though, something was different. The man wasn't smirking. The woman wasn't sneering. They looked quieter. I wanted to hide, but before I could move, the hostess waved at me. "Daniel, this couple specifically asked for you." My blood ran cold. I swallowed hard and nodded. "Of course," I said softly. They sat at the same table, the one by the window where I'd served them the night before. The man looked at me, eyes uncertain. "You remember us, right?" I forced a polite smile. "Yes, sir. I do." He nodded slowly. "We owe you an apology." The words hit me like thunder. I froze. "Sir." The woman looked down, her voice trembling slightly. Last night, we were awful. We'd just gotten some terrible news. Our emotions got the better of us, and we took it out on you. That wasn't fair. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. This isn't just an apology, he said, placing it on the table. It's something we hope might help you, even just a little. I hesitated. Sir, please, he interrupted gently. Just take it. I stood there for a moment, unsure what to say. Then I nodded and slipped the envelope into my apron pocket. The rest of the meal went quietly. Polite smiles, soft words, no complaints. When they left, the man gave me a firm handshake. Thank you for your patience, Daniel. I mean that. And then they were gone. I didn't open the envelope until my break. My hands were shaking as I tore it open. Inside was a note and a check. The note read, "You served us with kindness when we least deserved it. We lost our son yesterday. He used to be a waiter too. You reminded us of him. Thank you for treating us like humans even when we weren't kind. Please accept this small gesture." The check was for $10,000. My vision blurred. My knees almost gave out. I sat there in the break room, staring at it, tears rolling down my face. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the money, but because of what it meant. One night of patience. One night of holding my tongue, serving with respect when I felt humiliated. And somehow, that act of grace had found its way back to me. But there was more to come, because what I did with that money would change more lives than mine alone. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at that check like it was a dream I didn't deserve. $10,000. To most people, it's a number. To me, it was a second chance. I thought about all the nights I'd gone to bed hungry, all the times I'd skipped meals so my little sister could eat. I thought about Mom's smile before she passed, how she always said, "Kindness never leaves empty hands, Daniel." Maybe she was right, but I didn't want to spend that money just on myself. So the next morning, I went to the orphanage where I used to volunteer as a teenager, a small, forgotten place on the corner of Maple Street. The roof leaked, the kitchen was cracked, and the kids shared blankets. When the caretaker, Mrs. Joyce, saw me, her eyes lit up. "Daniel, I thought you'd moved away." I smiled. "Not yet, ma'am. I brought something for the kids." I handed her the envelope. When she saw the check, she covered her mouth, tears falling instantly. "Daniel, this is too much." I shook my head. "No, ma'am. Someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. I just want to pass it on." She hugged me tight, whispering, "Your mother would be proud." That day, we used the money to fix the roof, buy warm clothes, and fill the pantry with food. The laughter of those kids echoed through that little building like music. And for the first time in years, I felt rich. Not because of the money, but because of the peace that came with giving it away. Weeks later, I was back at work when a man in a suit walked in. At first, I didn't recognize him until he smiled. It was him, the same man from that night. But this time, his eyes weren't tired. He looked lighter. He extended his hand. "Daniel, I wanted to see you one last time." I smiled nervously. "Of course, sir. How are you?" He chuckled softly. "Better. My wife and I, we decided to start something new in honor of our son. A foundation for waiters, students, and anyone working hard to get back on their feet." I blinked, speechless. "That's incredible." He smiled again. "We'd like you to be our first partner. You reminded us what kindness looks like." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Me? A simple waiter? He placed a small card in my hand. Embossed letters, golden edges. "The Carter Foundation for Second Chances, partner, Daniel Hayes." As he walked away, I looked out the window, the sun pouring golden light into the room. Life had come full circle. One act of patience, one night of grace, and everything changed. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can echo through lives you'll never even meet. It costs nothing to be kind, but it can mean everything to someone else. The next time you face someone rude, angry, or unfair, remember this. People fight battles we cannot see, and sometimes, your calm may be the miracle they didn't know they needed. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because here at EquiNarrative, we believe every story, no matter how small, can change a life.